Wake up, Adam, they are getting close.
Asteroid weapon with your money. When it's your tax dollars, it's not funny. We are the guinea pigs, they are the monkeys. They get to pick on the politician running. Making asteroid weapon with your money. When it's your tax dollars, it's not funny. We are the guinea pigs.
All right, what is going on, guys? It is Adam, a.k.a. Marf, and this is Marfoogle News. It is like 200 degrees in Seattle right now. I am just blasted here with heat. We're going to talk about the heat. We're going to talk about the fires. We're going to talk about, of course, Russia, UKR, everything that is going on right now, including they found cocaine in the White House, or at least a form of it. We'll talk about that right now. U.S. recommends Americans reconsider traveling to China due to arbitrary law enforcement and exit bans. So is this really the reason? It says the U.S. is recommending Americans reconsider traveling to China because of arbitrary law enforcement, exit bans, and the risk of wrongful detentions. No specific cases were cited, but the advisory comes after a 78-year-old U.S. citizen was sentenced to life in prison for spying charges in May. It also follows the passage last week of sweeping foreign relations law that threatens countermeasures against those seen as harming China interests. So if you have the wrong opinion and you're visiting, you might be put away. China has also recently passed a broadly written counter-espionage law that sent a chill through the foreign business community, with offices being raided, as well as a law to sanction foreign critics. It says the People's Republic of China, the PRC government, arbitrarily enforces local laws, including issuing exit bans on U.S. citizens and citizens of other countries without fair or transparent process under the law. We actually talked about this before. There were 3 huge businesses that were actually raided. They found absolutely nothing, but they essentially put the people in those companies through hell. So we'll talk about this and much, much more on tonight's episode of Marfoogle TV. Stick around. It's a live show. Anything can happen. Nothing in this show should be considered legal, medical, or financial advice. The views of the callers can differ considerably and do not necessarily reflect my opinion, Dex's opinion, or anyone else who works with the show. You should always do your own research and consult with professionals. The internet is full of fake news, so please take everything with a grain of salt. If you have not already, it helps us out if you end up going through any of our affiliates, and it helps you out if you end up protecting yourself against cybercrime. NordVPN is one of the best and one of the easiest to use. If you do not have a virtual private network, it protects your IP address, which is your online identity, which actually connects to your real address and everything else. It also connects to you. If you know anything about how they are data logging and basically getting your profiles down, you can prevent that by having a VPN. Nord is, again, one of the easiest. Download it. It's like an on switch and off switch. All you have to do. Go to marfooglenews.com/VPN. Not only will you get a giant discount on this, but you will also be helping us. I appreciate your support, and I appreciate everyone that goes through any of our affiliates. Can't say thank you enough.
The guinea pigs, they are the monkeys. They get to pick on the politician running. Making asteroid weapon with your money. When it's your tax dollars, it's not funny. We are the guinea pigs, they are the monkeys. They get to pick on the politician.
All right, what is going on, guys? It is Adam, a.k.a. Marf, and today's show is going to be packed, so stick around. It is going to go through a whole lot in a short amount of time. Remember, if you're new here, you can always go over to marfooglenews.com, and you can find not only a full bibliography of all of our sources, you can find every single article, tweet, video, picture, document when you look for today's thumbnail. Asteroid Weapons, Russia, WW3, Titan, SHTF, and there's much that we added right before the show, so stick around. Of course, once you hit that website, you'll see that we have a source for absolutely everything, and we have a whole lot more. Down at the bottom, there is the overflow/web content. We make this for every show, so make sure to go over and utilize it. It has all sorts of extra stories that could not fit into today's show. Now, remember, you can also find all of our mods and all of our friends over at marfooglenews.com/friends. On top of that, you can, of course, find all of the great channels that we are working with and anyone who ends up appearing on the show or even calls. So, again, make sure to go check out our website. It's filled with great information. Let's bring in my co/internet brother, Dex James. What is going on, and how are you doing today?
Hello, Adam, and hello, Foogle fam. I'm doing just fine.
First off, I just want to start off and thank a few people that popped in before the show even started. Thank you, Savannah Sushi over on DLive. Thank you for the ice creams. Thank you, Kimbria, Scooby-Doo Right, Renegade PD, and Yobi, and Dollar Bill 99 for following. And then, of course, our main audience, the over on YouTube. Thank you guys. I appreciate everybody that has already popped in. It looks like we have a couple thousand, so thank you. And then on Rumble, actually, that family is growing. So thank you guys over on Rumble. Let's see here. Also, Dillinger, Edwin Perez. Let's see. Starshine, thank you for subscribing. Barbie Burns Fat, thank you for becoming a member. Survival Living, thank you for becoming a member. Wendy on Washington, Robert Hoskins, and of course, Yep, thank you for subscribing. Tracy K, Stanton's Shenanigans, and Tree Hugger, thank you for becoming a member, along with Miss Lady Tiger and Bork. That's a good one. All right, so let's first off, let's go back to this first story. We actually talked about this, and we predicted that this may come as far as when we heard about the kind of the law changes, and then of course the rating of some of the offices. But now they're actually saying, for some reason or other, if there is some other reason besides this, not to travel to China. That's kind of funky if it's not purely what they say.
It certainly is. I think it's a level 3 now on the State Department, which is the second highest. The next would be level 4, do not travel, or absolutely do not travel. This is recommended, do not travel. Definitely, that's kind of eye-opening, but it also coincides with the new laws going in place. The other interesting thing is Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen is actually making a trip there this week. So it'll be interesting to see if she has trouble getting out. I can't imagine they would detain her. Although, could you imagine if they actually did and said, hey, we're calling our debt and we're keeping Yellen until you pay? But no, that's not going to happen. Yeah,
that would be those would be fighting words. And then, of course, as far as China goes, obviously there has been a lot of change in the last 6 months, and there's a lot of tensions, or at least that's what they're telling us. And of course, China restricts exports of 2 vital chip-making metals. Dex, do you want to go over this?
So in retaliation, so to speak, I guess, of the other, embargoes or sanctions that are against them that we've been doing, specifically targeting them with chips and chip production from other countries and what they're allowed to have so that we can not allow them to beat us at AI, us being the US. In retaliation for that, it looks like they're now going to not export a couple of specific metal components that are critical in the production of chips. So some of those they produce quite a bit of, and some of them are produced by other countries as well. So it may not necessarily be as as rare in some instances. It just make it more difficult because they probably have quite a bit of it. As you know, they have a large manufacturing. So I think gallium is one of them, gallium, and the other one is germanium. So those are being placed on their restricted export list. So you can no longer buy those from China.
So I wonder if they did this with something even more important, if they did this with some of their other supplies that were dependent on for them. The one thing that we have talked about a bunch here for the last few years is how we grew almost completely dependent for APIs, active pharmaceutical ingredients, and of course, antibiotics. Antibiotics are mostly made in China. We get about 90% of all of our antibiotics from China. I think it's even more, or maybe backwards. One is 93%, or one is 97% of APIs, active pharmaceutical ingredients, to make antibiotics, and then 90% of our antibiotics, as of about a year and a half ago or 2 years ago, all of them were coming from China. That's absolutely insane. Antibiotics are, they're basically the spine of the medical system. So it is really nuts that we are dependent on them for that. And I don't understand why, since that's been known for years, why has there not been gigantic steps? Why isn't that screamed in the Congress that we need to change that we need to do something? At the same time, it's screamed all over the place that, we may be going to World War III with them. Do you think that they're going to go to war with us and keep shipping us antibiotics and lithium and everything else that they manufacture there? Probably not. We had a caller the other night that called our call-in show and talked about how much they have grown since they opened their doors to capitalism. And it is really insane how fast they have grown everything. I mean, from their military to their GDP to everything. Dex, go ahead.
Well, one of these, they actually list some of the products that you can expect to see, and I think what you'll see is an increase in price, not necessarily restrictions on their availability. But here's the example: gallium. It's used across a broad range of electronics, including solar panels, which would be obviously very important because a lot of people are investing heavily in solar. Those panels are going everywhere. Then they're also used in low noise microwave preamplifiers that go into smartphones. LED lights use them. Lasers that are used for Blu-ray discs, which probably, maybe the gaming industry. I don't know who's really buying Blu-rays at this point. But that's just an example. So I think about solar panels. I think about the components that go into smartphones when it comes to that. Prices will go up. Now, for example, China is the leading producer of it. But there are others that are also leading producers like Japan and South Korea. So great, we can get it from there. But the other two are Russia and UKR, which, good luck getting anything out of there with everything that's going on. So 3 of the top 5 leading producers are probably going to be non-existent for this type of product, leaving it solely to Japan and South Korea to supply gallium as one example of these 2 restrictions, which will probably cause solar panels to go up, cell phones and LEDs to go up.
Jammer One says it's either pay or go without. Someone said there, who was that? That was Priscilla R over on DLive said, good thing I'm not on any meds. The thing is if you look forward, I mean, most of us that have had issues pop up in the recent years, it's like you could be completely healthy and then the next month not. I've had several friends that were in their 30s, like young 30s, like 31, 32. All of a sudden, it was like within 6 months, they got diagnosed with cancer and perished from cancer. So there's a lot of things that, of course, can just come all of a sudden. I mean, it's the slow way of getting hit by a truck. So of course, the system, and anybody that's here probably knows, over the last 50, 60 years, there has been a huge rise in all sorts of different ailments. And even though we're supposed to be living longer than we ever have before, it's only if you play the system. It's only if you have the perfect insurance and take the pills they want you to. If you don't have a good system, then you fall through the cracks. I mean, how many people do you know that say they don't have health insurance for one reason or the other, even with the whole Obamacare and all of that? That they or they have insurance and the copay is so much that they can't afford it. How many people have you heard about that slipping through the cracks? How many people do you know in the last 20 years that have actually died that could have actually lived if they had the ability to actually save themselves? That's what I think about, is just how quickly these things have hit, and how all of these different long-term stats have shown really suspicious things, like men's sperm counts dropping 50% over the last few decades. Why is that? Why do certain autisms, why have they basically shot up? Why is, ADHD and other focus related things going up? Why MS in the Northwest? We have some of the highest rates here. And they literally had billboards at one point saying, is it in the rain? Is it in the water? Like, people didn't know why we had the highest rates of MS or multiple sclerosis in the country. I think it was MS, yeah. And it's like, why are these things happening? Now, of course, after 2019, there's probably going to be a whole slew of other things that may pop up. We don't know. But I would say the good thing to do is to, of course, knock on wood and pray that you stay healthy, because if this medical system and if our dependence on China is this bad, then if we do go to trouble with them, then we are going to be screwed. And again, you can contact your local government and say, hey, we need to fix this. We need to try to make our own and speed this up. And then Macron postpones state visit to Germany to deal with violent riots across France. So from all looks across this, France is going nuts right now. and they definitely do not have this fully under control. We covered on Friday. I think it was Friday. No, it was yesterday. Yes. Was it Friday?
Friday.
We covered the how they added 5,000 more police, and it ended up being like 45,000 or 50,000 police instead of actually changing other things. They just added more police instead of restricting people this or that. They ended up adding more police. And essentially, some of the responses to that were, well, we need to go out in even bigger numbers. So France is going nuts. It looks like a revolution in some places, la révolution in some places, and literally there is riots across France. Is this signs for what is to come to other places? Some believe that France is just one place that, of course, is showing it's kind of breaking after the last 4 or 5 years of all the crap we've gone through. People are pretty fed up with politicians making decisions without them involved. Dex, as far as the he's not visiting, he's not leaving. He basically canceled these things, right?
Yeah, he much better than what he did when he was, letting the city burn while he was watching an Elton John concert or whatever it was. But things are getting out of hand there. They did say it might have pulled back just a hair, but I have a sneaking suspicion that is wishful thinking on their part, because they were also creating more plans to deal with more unrest. There was a wild rumor that went out. And it wasn't even a rumor. They came out and squashed it. They said that someone had reported that they were turning off the internet in certain areas where they were having this problem at certain times to sort of stop the spread of social messaging about, the uprisings. But they did come out and say, hey, we never said that and we didn't do it. And that's false information. So, yeah, I know a lot of people have heard that and talked about it. I don't know what's true and what's not true. I'm just saying that's what's been reported.
Yeah, and again, there was the whole talk about Operation Starfall is if major places lose their internet, something like Operation Starfall, if you want to look that up, it's where they would launch atmospheric balloons to essentially have satellites on them, similar to, it would look like something like the China spy balloon, and they would launch a bunch of those and put internet over a country, and it actually was suggested during when Cuba had their internet go out. And they would do that in a sense like that. But would they do that if it was our allies turning off the internet? What if France or Macron decided to turn off the internet to his country? Would we go over and give internet access to one of our allies if it was by choice that they didn't have internet, that it wasn't an attack, or that it wasn't a dictatorship? It was, a so-called democracy, had a country had something like that happen. I just wonder if somebody would step in and let them communicate. That's a scary thing, too. If you think about it, all of our communications now have the backbone of the internet. And if the internet goes down, all of our communications go down, or essentially all of them. And even the folks that, use long-range radios and things, there are laws and different bills going in to try to hinder things like ham radios and things like that. So I think it's crazy that we are completely dependent on, one, our grid, and two, our internet. I am praying for the people of France that they can get through this, and I'm praying for, for them. I hope that they all are happy with what happens. Part of Zafarizia NPP employees collaborating with occupiers and Rosatom personnel leave Eniador. So it says some of Zafarizia nuclear power plant employees who collaborate with Russian as well as some of the Rosatom personnel have left the temporarily occupied city of Eniador, Zafarizia Oblast. It says, according to the mayor, some of the collaborators, ZNPP employees who have signed contracts with Rosatom have left Eniador. In addition, some of the Rosatom personnel brought from Russian nuclear power plants, up to 100 specialists, left the city at the end of the previous week. About 5,000 to 6,000 employees of the Zafarizia nuclear power plant are currently staying in the temporary occupied city of Eniador and are virtual hostages. And I like how they are virtual hostages of the Russian army. The mayor said the occupation authorities do not allow them to leave the city. They are also not allowed to go to work because their passes have been blocked if they have not signed a contract with Rosatom. Orlov has also said that there are no shelters in Enhardor in case of an explosion at the Zafarizia power plant. Notice how they threw that in there, in case there's an explosion. Well, we've talked about this. They've led up to it. We've had Blumenthal and Lindsey Graham basically come out and say that there's a bipartisan resolution from Congress to support an immediate invocation of Article 5, essentially a World War III. NATO gets involved if anything happens at Zafarizia. We talked about this on Friday, how they are now doing this whole thing where essentially they're putting out all of this information out of Ukraine that they believe not only is Putin planning for something, planning some sort of T attack, but also possibly planning to blow up Zafarizia. If that happens, if radiation goes everywhere, if it goes into NATO territory, then you have NATO directly involved and NATO at war with Russia if they invoke Article 5. That's how quickly this could change if that is the case. And they have set up for that. And of course, it is coming from UKR. So people believe that it could be set up for a Fantastic Freddy, a false you-know-what. So like this is really alarming. And many people are looking at this, how they just put out information that at least it's all UKR side that says that they are going to be leaving Zafarizia by July 5th. So it's just crazy timing that we're talking about right now is Independence Day tomorrow. And then the day after our Independence Day, everybody's supposed to be out of there by that date. I just wonder what is actually being planned here. What is going on? Is something going to happen here? And that's exactly what they've set up in the readers' minds, that if it does happen, guess who they're going to blame? They're going to blame Russia. That's the obvious thing. Now, it could very well be Russia that they do this, but there's also the setup prehand. They've told us many times, and they've basically said that they're threatening to do this, they're going to do this, they think they're going to do it, and then they said, if they do it, we're going to do this. And I bet they were gauging the response of how people acted when, say, Blumenthal and Lindsey Graham came out there and said that they support that. What's scary is I saw on Twitter that a bunch of people actually did support that. They said, yeah, heck yeah, if any radiation goes across the border, then World War III, you take these guys out. So that's a scary thought. I believe that we will be in war. I don't believe it's the end of the world. I believe this is the next big war. And I think people really should start accepting it instead of being afraid of it and start planning around it. I mean, if you don't look at it like the end of the world and like a nuclear apocalypse, then it's another war that we're going to be in, only this is going to be way, way bigger. Hopefully we're safer in the U.S., but most people in Europe, if you're in the U.S., you have to realize, talk to some folks in Europe. They're much more realistic about this, and they are not somewhere far else out. This could happen to Europe in a second like that. And then all of a sudden, we have our young men and women going over there to fight. So I think it's a realistic thing to have this in, kind of your plans down the road. And I don't think it's that far down the road. In fact, I think this has already started. Dex, about this whole, all of the information we have is from one side. Have you noticed that it's essentially all UKR contracted people, U.S. government,
intelligence departments from UKR. It's all coming from one side. Even Zelensky was one of the first to talk about a potential Fantastic Freddy event over this plant in like the last 2 weeks. He's brought it up a week and a half, I think it was. He brought it up before we led into that whole July 5th date that they threw out there. But what it is also, interesting, and I question, like, why do they allow 5,000 to 6,000 employees that to stay in the city, but not allow them to go to work? I mean, obviously they booted them out because they put their own people in, and they booted them out because they didn't sign contracts. But why force them to stay there? Why not let them leave? That's a very interesting, position to make them stay but not be able to work, unless they think that they, might need one of them for something and didn't want them to don't want to lose contact with them. But if everyone with ties to Rosatom is actually leaving, as they're suggesting, that is very suspicious. But then again, you have to take it with a giant grain of salt because it's only coming from one side. Now, of course, if the other side was actually planning to do this, they wouldn't be talking about it. So they wouldn't be saying anything, which is quite interesting as well.
So John Laterno says, you two are clueless about this. I would love for you to fill us in, and then on our call-in, please call in. But tell us what your opinion is. Do you believe the mainstream media right now? Because you might be in the wrong place. We do not believe much of the stuff that is coming out right now. And if there are people out there that really don't think that UKR is doing propaganda, they come from the same backbone that Russia does. They're practically cousins. If you go far enough back, they went to the same school of propaganda. Propaganda, whether there's good propaganda and there's bad propaganda during conflicts, and there's both going on right now. The media has lied time and time again just in the last year and a half, and that's been proven. But once it's proven, it's a couple months past, and people don't even think about it. I just saw a tweet about the Snake Island incident on Zelensky's Twitter, and it said it was an anniversary of Snake Island. If you remember, Snake Island was a whole kerfuffle. That was a complete mess. They said that essentially all of the men, they said that they valiantly fought and they died, and it turned out that they were actually taken prisoner. And they said "F you guys," and then they blew them up, and it was story over. That story, the Ghost of Kiev, and all of these other stories that ended up being something completely different. So I would love to hear other opinions. If you have it all together, I frankly don't believe anyone who says that they know exactly what is going on. Even if they live there, then you are in that bubble. Everybody is in their bubble. The reason why it's good to have a show like this is because we have people from all over the world, and they're chiming in with their unique views. So if you have a unique view about this, and if you have proof we're clueless, then let me know. Debate about it. Tweet what your information is. Put your information out, and we will share it. I am not against being proven wrong, and if I make a blatant mistake, then I try to correct myself. If you are right, you could be right. Who knows? Right now, everyone is wrong. That's my opinion. But I do believe that World War III is coming, and it's not the end of the world, and we are already in it. There's tons of motivations for this to be World War III. And again, it's not going to be the end of the world, but it is going to be bad, and it is going to change life as we know it. Just like CV did. When CV happened in 2019, I knew whatever you think about it, or whatever you think it was or wasn't, it doesn't change the fact that business is closed for 3 to 6 months. It doesn't change that people lost their homes. It doesn't change that there are more people evicted, and what was it, like in a month, than we have in like the past 10 years once they dropped all of the moratoriums. It doesn't change any of that. It affected people's lives. It also affected everything. I mean, shoot, we don't even have a 24-hour store here. Still, CV is done and over with. It's forgotten about, but yet we don't have a 24-hour grocery store anymore. That was all changes that happened during that time. It's just absolutely nuts. Oh, and then self-checkout. That was another thing that changed, never changed back. They literally rearranged grocery stores so everything was self-checkout. Now everything is still self-checkout, which if you care about, people having jobs, then it's pretty messed up that all of those spots that were once human checkers are now self-checkouts. And maybe if you're lucky, you get there at the right time period, you'll have somebody check you out, especially if you have a whole cart full of stuff. It sucks going through self-checkout. But that's just my opinion. What's yours? And prove me wrong. Give me your information. Give me the research that you have done, and I would be glad to look at it. Email me at adam@marfooglenews.com. All right, and then thank you. What was it? Who did that? Somebody did 14-month subscribe. Thank you so much. SM879, thank you so much as well for your support. And thank you. Somebody just did a 14-month streak there. Thank you over on DLive. And then Kiki Gray, thank you. Beard Jews, Scooby-Doo Do-Right, and of course, Kimbria, Priscilla R. Thank you guys. All right. And Babylon will burn 1 hour. It will be desolate. Let's see here. That was Sign Digger. Tom Sawyer, tomorrow is July 4th and the opening of The Sound of Freedom. If you wanted the truth, then please go see it. They left out the butchery. Sometimes you don't need to see. Conspiracy theory, no. Let's see here. All common people can do is like me, is prepare survival. And that's what we're saying. Even if it's a 1% chance of something happening, then prepare for that. I think people in the end will appreciate what we have done here for years. And that is, the general statement is, no matter what is going on or no matter who is right, it's better to prepare than it is to not be prepared. It's better to have a plan. We can argue all day about our points and our biases and our arguments. End of the day, are you prepared? Because it doesn't matter what you think. I barely think that there's anybody out there that thinks that absolutely no tough events or no disasters are going to happen in the future. I think that that's a very rare view. If you think, oh, nothing will ever happen, then you're in La La Land. All right, and then before we move on, I want to remind you guys, there is the sale that is going on, and it actually combined with the 4th of July. And as far as energy goes, they still have the 15% off on the X2. So it is one of the best times to go get a Kodiak X2. These are extremely, extremely useful units. This is a solar generator, so it can hook up to solar panels, and you can get your power from the sun. You don't have to pay $5 a gallon of gas. You don't have to store fuel. And they're absolutely silent. Nobody is going to hear this running from 3 blocks away. This, of course, has a great thing built right in, which is UPS. It's an uninterrupted power supply. So that means you can have, say, your fridge plugged into this plugged into the wall, and the fridge will actually pull its power from the wall without affecting the battery or any of this. And then when the power goes out, it will automatically switch over to the generator. That's a great thing to have as far as if you are in an area that loses power a lot, that you have a lot of storms. If you're in a of course, a weird weather zone. I've lived in at least 3 where we had high winds pretty much half the year. Then this is a really great thing. If you've ever had to stay at a family member's house or a hotel because you've lost power for a day to 7 days, then again, this is a really good thing to have other than SHTF. Just for normal disasters that happen on a regular basis, regional storms, hurricanes, tornadoes, earthquakes, whatever it may be, this is a really, really good tool. It is one of the top things on people's list, but it's expensive. So not a lot of people can access things like this. But right now, there's our special discount, and that stacks. None of our affiliates really stack, except for EMP Shield. And right now, they are stacking that on top of their 15% off on the X2. It can actually be dual linked. So if you want more capacity or more output, you can actually get a second one and then dual link it, and you'll actually get twice the output and twice of the battery capacity. The Kodiak X2, go to marfooglenews.com/energy, INERGY, and make sure to use the code Marfoogle. If you really want a tactical modular system, I would go for the Flex Tactical or the Energy Flex 1500. The Flex Tactical is going to be used in the military. They just went through and got a bunch of awards. In fact, they just got the SBIR Phase 2 contract with the U.S. Army. So this thing, if you really want one of the best units out there, make sure to go also check out the Flex Tactical. And then if you want something modular, but you don't need all the tactical bells and whistles, then go check out the Flex 1500. Everything has our special discount on it. So if you want to go with something like that, you can expand it over the years. And again, it's quiet, it's stealth, and it's very, very powerful. And it's unlimited power as long as you have solar panels. All right, and then go to marfooglenews.com/energy, INERGY, and make sure to use the code Marfoogle. It helps support us. We are independent, and you end up getting a discount at it at well, and you get something that you can keep for decades to come. All right, and then Dex, do you want to talk about the global food crisis is getting so bad?
Absolutely. So if you recall last year, the UN and Turkey had brokered a deal for what was called the Black Sea Grain Initiative. And that was the Black Sea Grain Deal that allowed the grain to still flow, even though the conflict was going on and even though all the sanctions were going on. Well, there's been all sorts of issues, obviously, with not having the ability to connect to Swift for them to actually be able to conduct financial transactions for the sale or exporting, they being Russia, the sale of exporting of any of that grain, and doing it in a fashion that they're happy with. And even went so far as I think last week, Lavrov came out and said he saw no reason to extend the deal. So the deal was, I guess, a year long. It's up for renewal on July 18th. Well, now the EU is very concerned about the global, excuse me, food supply crisis, and they're saying, "Hey, we're so worried about it that we actually are asking to reconnect Russia to SWIFT only for these types of transactions, and they want to actually, basically separate off or rope off a portion of the mechanisms that they have in place to do this so that they could try to only allow them to do SWIFT transactions specifically for the grain deals." Now, I don't know if that's going to happen, but that's what they're proposing. I think this is obviously a response to Lavrov saying, we don't think we need to renew this deal because it's not really a good deal for us. And they're probably doing that as a mechanism to, sort of twist the arm of the West, who and in turn, the West is coming back and saying, the West being Europe is coming back and saying, look, we need the grain. You've got to get the grain out of there. So, how can we do this? And they're looking to negotiate. So if this actually moves forward, it will be interesting to see a unraveling, so to speak, of these tough sanctions that we put on Russia, and giving them a way to actually, transact in USD over the SWIFT network.
Yeah, as far as the banking system and everything else that's going on with that, Taiwan Prepper said, "Don't be a scaremonger." So Beth and some others said, "Scaremonger." That's a good one. First of all, scaremonger, that's a newer one. If fearmonger has been around forever, but now scaremonger. Let me just ask chat: is anybody here scared when they watch my show? Can you guys let new people that come in here and call us fearmonger and scaremonger, will you let them know that these are preppers here? And somebody, again, with prepper in their name saying, "Don't be a scaremonger," you are a prepper because you are thinking of the unthinkable. You are prepping for things that could or would possibly happen. I think that it's absolutely crazy to be scared of everything. And I think that the whole mindset of a prepper is that you're not afraid of what's to come. You're preparing for what is to come. So for somebody with prepper in their name, that sounds a little absurd to me, because you're prepping for things that are unlikely. That is the whole point of it. Unless if you're going to prepare or be a prepper for the things that you absolutely know are going to happen, then you would think, well, why wouldn't you just get out of the way of them? If you know a bus is going to hit you, then just move out of the way. People don't prep because they know exactly what is going to happen. They prep because they don't. That is the entire point of it. It is my opinion. When people say don't scaremonger, and if I'm sharing my actual real opinion, then they're basically saying shut up and don't talk. That's what I have equaled that to now. Basically, people say shut up, don't tell your opinion about what is happening. I think I don't scare people in the fact that I don't tell you it's the end of the world tomorrow. I tell you it's the beginning of a new one. And I tell you I don't think it's going to be an all-out nuclear war. There are a lot of people that just literally go over the edge and just scare the crap out of you. I try to make it my real opinion. I don't think we're going to have a nuclear dystopia right off the bat. I also think we are already in a war, and I think I can prove it. I think I can prove it with the economy. I think I can prove it with the banking collapses. I think I can prove it since 2019 with this virus that shut down the world. I think I can prove it with this whole process that is happening of globalization. And I can prove it with the history of our country. 93% of our time as a country since 1776, we have been at war. Think about that. 93%. And you don't think that there's a big war coming? 93%. So 7% of the time in the last few hundred years that we have been a country, we have been at peace. Heck, if you put that into the calculator, one of our presidents just recently probably had an 8-year stretch. That was probably a big percentage of that. So again, This isn't to scare people. And if you are scared by this content, don't watch it. It is voluntary. There are 2 billion YouTube channels. You can be somewhere else watching something that's telling you that, hey guys, that's all great. Everything is rainbows and ponies. This is a prepper channel. So if you're a prepper, you may like it. If you are a prepper, an extreme optimist, you may not. But again, I don't think that these people are scared. I think that they want to know. The reason they're here is because they want to know what's happening next. I asked when I first started this channel, if you want to know what's happening, then follow the channel. If you don't, then you don't have to. No one is shoving this down your throat, ever. This doesn't get recommended to millions of people. It doesn't get recommended. The people find this either through accident or looking up for a specific thing, and then they end up sticking around. And they stick around because they want to know this stuff. So if there is demand for something and somebody is providing that, then what is the problem? Again, I think that all of us should be able to speak our mind, and the problem with today is they're telling everybody to shut up. You can't speak the truth if the truth doesn't agree with their truth. And that is one of the hugest things, and that's what's going to cause a revolution faster than anything else, is shutting down people's speech, saying, don't say that, you're scaring people. Well, guess what? Facts don't care about your feelings. And right now, there's enough proof that we are heading into a war. Whether you're looking at mainstream, whether you're looking at the actual things that are going on, or whether you're looking at the alternative, independent, whatever way you look at this, we are heading into a war. So I feel it would be absolutely a disservice to everyone if I said everything is going to be fine. Now, you can have your personal faith and you can be happy throughout the whole thing, but you can also be prepared. That's what I think. But I think people should shout out when people say fearmonger and scaremonger. Get out with that stuff. That stuff doesn't belong here. If you're afraid, just like a scary movie, don't watch it. If you get heart palpitations when you watch Scream, then don't watch Scream. And I'm sure you don't. If you don't like hearing somebody's opinion that is a negative opinion about where we're headed, don't watch it. It's as easy as that. It's the freedom for me to speak and the freedom for you to choose if you don't want to. But today, people will go, no, we have to shut them down because I don't even want other people hearing that person say that. That I feel is absolutely absurd. Yeah, people have been making points all recently. People have been taken out of context for what they've said. In just the last couple of days, people are trying to cancel people for having guests on their show that say things when they take it out of context. Let's just say it's the worst thing in the world that you could say. People should be able to say that, even if it is a horrible thing, because if it's said, then people can debate it, disagree with it, tear it apart, and actually know it's there. But they want to hide people's thoughts. They want to hide people's opinions, and that is how you push people down and you suppress people until the point where they snap. People need to be able to share their feelings, and especially, I wouldn't want to suppress somebody's thoughts. If they're really evil thoughts, then I would hope that they would let them speak them out so you know who that is speaking those evil thoughts. Instead, they're going to do it in secret, because if we've learned anything is you can't stop people from communicating. You can't stop people from speaking with each other, and you can't stop people from having evil thoughts. What you can do is suppress them to where they do it in secret to the point where then they start doing evil stuff and then they start hurting people. So just my opinion. What's yours? Let me know in the comments down below. Thank you, Sweating Ministries. I appreciate that. Not my 7 years living here. Hey, nice. Tennessee Mountain Girl, thank you. Renee Alera, Adam and Dex, you have done an amazing job. I'm thankful for you both. Thank you, Renee, and thank you for stopping by again. I appreciate that. Thank you for the massive support. And again, thank you. Sweating Ministries Military Movement, Anderson, Indiana. Never seen before. Good to know, Sweating. If you have videos, marfooglenews.com/play my video. And then B-Real Beast. Could you lie to me, Adam? I'm worried. God bless. Thank you, B-Real. I appreciate the support. And thank you yesterday, too. It says, don't worry about the radiation. Just put your mask on again, right? Yeah, because it blocks everything. And then U.S. may be creating asteroid weapons under the guise of planetary protection, says expert. there's multiple ways to look at this, and it's kind of funny if you know some of the opinions I've had over the years about possibly they know something is going to hit us. This is where my thoughts, a lot of people will go, oh, that's a little crazy. As far as I have legitimately in the past, and I still believe that there is something up. There's something they're not telling us. The whole "don't look up" said, that whole this is based on real events ... that haven't happened yet. That guy literally does. He normally does true to life stories, and he did the "Don't Look Up" film. Made every character in that movie essentially representative of a few years ago, right before Space Force started, right before all of this stuff. It was really freaky. That's a side thought, because after 10 years of them basically out of nowhere picking up asteroid missions, asteroid destroying missions like Hayabusa, of course, you've got Osiris Rex, Osiris Apex. That's going to be landing on Apophis. You, of course, have also DART, Double Asteroid Redirection Test. You have Hammer, Hypervelocity Asteroid and Mitigation Emergency Response Vehicle, essentially a nuke on a missile. And you have all these things happening, right? And then you had the Sunspot Observatory, and all of these observatories shut down at the same time. And Blackhawks go in, and they said, "Oh yeah, it's because he had something dirty on his computer." I don't know about that. Something about this whole thing doesn't ring true. Now, and then Starlink, when it first happened, and they said that they were going to build a grid around the planet, I said, I think that that's something else. I think that's a defense mechanism. I think that's a defense weapon. I think it's a detector or a deterrent or something. About a year and a half, 2 years go by. Elon admits, he says 1 out of every 4 or about is actually a hypersonic detector. It can detect hypersonic speed objects. Now, that could be hypersonic missiles, which is what they said it was for, or it could be something going around the same speed, 20,000, 22,000 asteroids. So I just think it's weird they're making this grid around the planet at the same time as shipping seeds to the moon, putting seeds and DNA samples of every living being down in the mountains. And they're also putting their navies underwater and all sorts of weird stuff, as far as Sweden goes and others. I think it's very odd, all of the things that have happened. And my question is, could they know of something that is coming in the near future? Maybe it would explain why all of the richest people in the world are trying to get to space, to the moon, to Mars. But that would assume, the foundation of this belief would assume that they haven't lied to us about the shape of what we're on or the universe that we're in, and that we haven't been lied to our whole life. I understand that there's multiple different views on that. But again, why all of this? Well, now it says the United States and other countries may be developing and testing asteroid weapons under the guise of creating planetary protection systems. Honorary member of the Tisilovsky Cosmonautics Academy, CEO of the Planetary Protection Center nonprofit partnership, Anatoly Zaitsev, told TASS on Friday, quote, "It is necessary to point out that an opportunity emerges to test kinetic," so it smashes into it, "laser, and even asteroid weapons under the guise of creating tools for protection from dangerous celestial bodies. These weapons can, for example, become a component of the space forces set up by the United States with the aim of its dominance in outer space," the expert said on the occasion of the International Asteroid Day annually celebrated on June 30th. The first method is to conceal information on dangerous celestial body, and the second option is to deliberately alter the asteroid flight path to make it crash into Russian territory, the expert explained. So think about what is being claimed here, or what is being said. To actually move something, and this is something we've talked about before. If you were able to control asteroids, if an asteroid hits a city, there is no other city to blame. There is no other adversary to blame. If an asteroid hits, say, Russia, and it destroys and wipes out the whole country, there's no radiation, or I don't think there is. It wipes out cities, and of course there's nobody to blame because an asteroid came from space and it hit. This is something that they have talked about wanting to do and be able to control. And the University of Glasgow, I covered this years ago, they actually found a way, and they believed that they found a way to redirect asteroids, and to do it to where they could redirect an asteroid that's big enough to last through the world's atmosphere. So it would be big enough to get through, but small enough not to do damage. And back when I first started this channel, I covered a story where all of FBI, all of CIA, all of took over an entire Washington city. They literally rented out every hotel room when a mysterious asteroid actually landed in the ocean. And they rented out, I think it was, I can't remember if it was, I think it was Ocean Shores or somewhere around there. It was a little bit further down the road. But essentially, they rented out the whole town, rented out all the hotels, and they had this huge mission with boats, and they were trying to recover that. In my eyes, I thought, did the studies from University of Glasgow, and did the government team up to actually purposely make an asteroid land? Think about if they have this capability. It's pretty insane. Dex, could you think if somebody was able to harness an asteroid and turn it into a weapon, it would essentially be the perfect weapon?
It would certainly be something that would be hard to detect and hard to necessarily, if it's hard enough to detect it, it's probably even harder to know that somebody actually pointed it at another location and caused it to happen. So yes, it seems pretty far-fetched at this stage that we would have that technology based on what they tell us is available with our technology, but based on what we know, how far out our R&D sort of works. In other words, we know today what they really, developed 20, 30 years ago. It's not that out of the realm of possibility to think that they don't have the capability of doing it. They probably do or are close to. It's just not commercialized. We don't see it.
What do you guys think? Do you think that they could either be designing asteroid weapons, or that they are probably planning for something to hit us? Why did they do the DART in the first place? Why do they do these kind of things? Why do they spend the millions or even billions of dollars doing it if they don't think it's an issue? Or if you believe that it's totally bunk and they do that fake, then what are they actually doing? Is it just a distraction? Let me know. I'd love to hear all of your opinions. And then lithium scarcity pushes car makers into the mining business. We just talked about kind of the geranium. What was it? Geranium, and then one other thing that China has. Do you want to talk about the scarcity of lithium? And this is exactly why it's high demand and low supply.
Well, this is this is something we've talked about quite often, because we talk about solar generators and lithium batteries and how hard they are to come by, at least good quality ones. And certainly this is obviously this happens quite significantly in the automobile industry, Tesla being the biggest, and then the Chinese car manufacturing companies, which we've talked quite a bit about, also being just almost as large and probably outpacing anything that the US is doing. But they're all consuming the lithium that's out there. And by the way, there's a ton of lithium out there. It's not like there's a scarcity of the actual lithium. It's just in the ground, and it's got to get out of the ground. And more difficult than getting it out of the ground is actually the refinement that they have to go through. So it's what happens right after it's plucked out of the ground. It's not, that's where the real backup happens, is in that refinement. But because it's so scarce, it seems now that the U.S. automakers, including European automakers, are literally starting to show up at mines in Chile, Argentina, Quebec, Nevada. And they're like getting involved in trying to figure out how they can start mining, buy these mines, do whatever they need to do to make sure that they have a supply, because they haven't been in the game. They're behind on it, and it's hard to get, because it's hard to get these refineries working that actually can produce the production grade lithium that they need to go into the batteries after it's plucked out of the ground.
And as far as what was it, lithium that, or was it something else that Elon said that they actually had enough in the United States that they could mine for the whole world? Was it lithium?
Oh yeah, he was basically saying there's more than enough lithium to go around the world. Every country has enough for everybody's needs. It's not it's not a limitation on the resource. It is the function of A, getting it out of the ground, but more importantly, B, refining it, because what comes out of the ground isn't usable.
Now, Dex, did you see the thing I sent you earlier? about the world, us grabbing all of the water or liquids out of the world. Did we end up getting that in here? I don't. Shoot.
No, you might need to send that to me again. I don't have that.
Okay. Can you cover the scientists discovered game-changing bacterium that literally eats nuclear waste?
Well, yeah, this is another interesting one. So, I think we've maybe heard about this type of capability, and they've talked about it in the past. But this is coming out that they've actually studied and specifically developed. I don't know if they developed it, but they've got these microbes now that they've been studying that are capable of actually eating toxic nuclear waste, and they don't. Nothing happens to them. It's just what they do. They can eat it, and it actually processes it and takes care of it to an extent. So if you think about like the amount of waste that we have piled up, it's a tremendous amount. It's everywhere. So we've got, I think they even said, this is a UK article. I think they said the amount of waste that's stored just in the UK could fill like Wembley like 4 or 5 times over. That's how much they have. So coming up with a process that not just, our current process is just store it. How do we store it? If we have another process that comes up, in this case using microbes that can actually eat it and process it and destroy it and bring it back, not bring the waste back, but basically get rid of the waste in its bad state, that will bode very well for the nuclear power industry if they're going to be able to keep going. Now, that's a big question, because in this whole green stuff, there's a lot of talk about, no, we don't need to be using nuclear because it's bad, and then you've got a lot of people on the side of that of the environmental stuff saying while yes, it's bad, it's also safe, and we should use it because it doesn't have a lot of emissions. Because it doesn't, for the most part, outside of the toxic waste, which is really bad. The rest of it is fairly clean. It's just steam that comes out. So it's just heat, and you steam, and the steam produces electricity, and then the byproduct is the white smoke steam that comes out. It's not a big deal compared to coal and everything else, coal and gas, which is what the majority here in the US, the majority of our electricity comes from. And I think something like 13 to 15, 20% range is what we get out of, say, nuclear. And we have quite a few plants, maybe 20 something plants in the States here, 28 plants, I believe we have. So anyway, that's this is game changing, as they call it. And it really could be. If this bacterium can really get rid of the waste, it'll solve a serious problem for this particular industry. I don't know if it solves enough of it for this industry to be able to continue. I know a lot of people are concerned about meltdowns and any type of, leaking or radiation poisoning that may happen in the local areas. So I think, you ask anybody if they want to live next door to a nuclear power plant, they'll probably tell you, no, I'd prefer to move, but many people can't because they're stuck there. So yeah, that's interesting to see how these, changes are going to happen in our energy environment.
Now, somebody made a great point about 4th of July. Almost all of the fireworks are made in China. So if you really think about it, whenever we celebrate our Independence Day, we are spending and sending millions. I don't know if it's $1 billion market, but at least hundreds of millions of dollars to China for the fireworks. And it's just crazy that we really do spend so much money, whether you know it or not. If you go to any Walmart, I mean, if you went to, there was a store here, there was Fry's Electronics. It's not that old or anything, but I don't know if it's all across the United States. But I know the West Coast had Fry's Electronics. When the whole thing with CV happened and nothing was coming from China and the containers stopped, it was insane to go into Fry's Electronics and see what they didn't have. And what they didn't have was about 85% of their store was all stuff from China. It was absolutely insane. It wasn't just like the as seen on TV section there. It was everything. And essentially when those containers stopped and they were all building up off the water, which I thought was sus as is, when that happened, we saw everything that China brings us, it all of a sudden got held back. And it really should have been an eye-opener for a lot of folks about how much we are dependent on China as a manufacturer. Fry's, I believe that was the downfall of Fry's. Fry's was already kind of on its down end. I mean, Radio Shack is now gone. Now Fry's. Fry's was already probably having problems, but after that, it was like the final nail in the coffin. Dex, go ahead.
If you need that link, it's in Screener.
Okay, thank you. And then a former Ocean Gate advisor said that the Titanic submersible tried to reach the surface before it imploded, indicating those on board knew something had gone wrong. The whole thing that is really crazy about the sub, and I'm sure most of you have probably felt the same way at one time or another. I felt like this story was meant to piss people off and to make them angry or to make them some sort of way, because all of a sudden, all of these clips, every clip I saw, including the other YouTuber that was on the third mission, I actually ended up watching his whole video of the 2 weeks that he spent on the ship. Him and his girlfriend got picked to go, and essentially, even if Mr. Beast was picked to go on that boat or whatever, not everybody goes on the actual trip. There could be 30 people on the boat, all on the list to get into the trip, and they can only choose like 4 or 5 for this trip. So this kid basically says, I was on the boat and I could have been in that thing, whatever else. Even that kid said, basically that was if somebody gave me their spot or whatever, right? And most of the people went on this thing for 2 weeks and they never even got to go down in it. They didn't even get to test it on 2 of the expeditions. They basically just went out for 2 weeks and put on scuba gear and pretended and then went back in. The third one, the weather was really bad, so he didn't go down. The point being, though, is all of the videos are so frustrating. Like, some have argued the fact, it was using a controller or whatever, this and that. It just seems so absolutely thrown together. They had camping lights, which was obviously like, everybody's like, what the heck? It was just the simplicity of it that people argue and they go, that's actually a good thing. I'm sorry. The guy was sitting crisscross applesauce with a laptop. The main thing was like a screen with 4 screens or something. They've got cameras. They've got this thing. The whole time that this kid was on the boat, they said that the brains weren't working, that it wasn't communicating. They couldn't even communicate with it on the water of the surface. This thing was so stupid. This whole thing, like, I don't know how you spend billions of dollars with today's technology and still make something that horrible. Now, as far as this goes, that means they were down there and they knew something was wrong. First of all, why did they even start going down? Like, I don't understand this. They had so many issues and they thought they fixed it, and they didn't redo the whole thing. They were doing things on that third week. They were trying to not replace the whole thing, the brains of it. And they were like, if we could just get around it, if there's a wiring, I would never go more than 10 feet in the water in that thing. After seeing that video of them talking about the system, it might be a loose wire. You're talking about one loose wire and you're down below. It's just insanity. So they ended up possibly knowing that they were about to be in trouble, and then they imploded. I think that's just as bad as having a painful death of knowing that something was wrong right before it happens. This is like, but of course it could be just, they're just putting out, everybody was fascinated by this thing. It involved the Titanic, it involved all this stuff. It said Ocean Gate's Titan submersible dropped its ballast and tried to ascend moments before going missing, likely meaning that the 5 people inside were already aborting the dive when it imploded. What I think is that it wasn't instant. I don't think this thing was instant. I think it probably went, like in the movies, you've seen it go, don't, don't, don't. These people could have known it was crushing, and then all of a sudden it snapped. And then it would have went like that, right? Because if you see the pieces of the ship, it doesn't look like it was the actual animation that Ocean Gate or some group that helped with that. They made an animation of it just going into dust, like turning into smithereens. And everybody's like, oh, that makes me feel better, because it turned into literal. They made it look like it was confetti. They pulled out huge chunks. Those people were smushed and squished and drowned. That's a horrible way to go. Dex, go ahead.
Well, the other thing that comes to mind here is a lot of the stuff they're talking about is information that they sort of knew. Like, they knew, and by the way, they may not have all known that what was going on. They are saying that it could have just been the captain who was, I think his name is Rush, the CEO, who would have been piloting it. It's his ship. He would have been piloting it, or sub. It could have been him that knew there was a problem and he aborted the mission, but the rest may not have known the reason or knew what was coming. Only he may have known that, is what they're saying. Could have been the best case. Worst case is they all knew, like you're saying, if they're just sitting there watching like a little bit of a leak starting to form and, a crack, and then all of a sudden, a few moments later, it's done. But the thing is, a lot of this was known earlier. And there's like all of this inside information that what they called, even James Cameron called it like the inside community knew and said they knew this stuff. They knew that this had happened. They knew that they dropped the weights. They knew that they were potentially dealing with this problem. And we heard that the military knew that they heard the sound of the implosion, yet they carried this whole thing on for such a long time, dragging it out through the media, dragging it out for the families. And I get it. You don't want to lose hope, if there is some slight chance, but it seemed pretty obvious that what had gone on. Now, here's the other interesting thing I want to say. They're saying, according to the New York Times, that they've aborted missions numerous times. They have actually aborted more of the Titan's dives than it's actually completed. How's that for a track record? Do you want to get on a ship that has actually aborted more times than it has actually completed the missions? That's kind of crazy.
The Dex, if you get a chance, it's kind of long, drawn out, but it shows you like the kind of view of somebody who was going on this boat. It was literally like every day they were on the boat, something was wrong with that thing. And of course, this came out afterwards, and everybody was gripped with this thing. And the fact that this YouTuber had 2 weeks of just straight up, oh, well, I guess the radar wasn't working, or something wasn't working, or this wasn't working. That every day there was something wrong. People actually paid $250,000 to go out on that boat, and they didn't even get in. They might have gotten inside of it, on the deck of it, or on the flotation devices. They didn't even, this looked like a grift. But like Dex said, the Navy later admitted, after 4 days after they said, oh, they waited 8 hours. The big suspicious thing that everybody said is that they waited 8 hours to contact anyone. And everybody goes, why would they wait 8 hours if they knew they lost contact and they only have however many hours? You would think it would be instant, right? Well, then later, I think it was a mistake that they admitted, oh, the Navy was actually listening right when they lost contact. The Navy started listening. So they knew the second that it happened. And they lied. They lied about all of this. I think it's because they drug it out for 4 days. Maybe it was maybe it had something to do with the same time the 700 immigrants sunk on that ship. Maybe that was much more distracting than that. But I don't know about that, because the people that made a big deal about that, and they actually made a big deal out of that. And I don't know about that. But at the same time, during that same time period, there were several things that were getting put out about the people in the White House. And it just seems like everybody was infatuated with this. So when there's a story that everyone is talking about and that you're angry about, or you're sad about, or you're infatuated about, that's the time when you should be looking at the back pages of the newspaper, because something is usually going on. There's usually a law, a resolution, or a bill going through that you probably don't want. When they do that in 6 months from now, you all of a sudden you're like, wait, when did they change that? Oh, it was that week that you were totally infatuated with this submarine. That's why, you're paying $500 more on your tabs or something. They pass this stuff when, and that's a stupid example because that's statewide, but you guys get what I mean. They'll pass these huge things and they'll do it quietly. Meanwhile, the loudest thing in the world is going on. Cognitable, I did see your comment earlier. Thank you. 25 months over on DLive. Thank you, and thank you. Thank you, everybody over on DLive that's been around for a long time. I think there's somebody at like 34 or maybe even longer. Thank you, guys. Since we went over there the month that we were not on the YouTubes. And then Sweatin' Ministries, thank you. Let's hear your audience sticks around because you and Dex are kind, caring, and have good hearts. You exude goodness. Thank you, Ilea, and thank you for being here, and thank you for I know your schedule has gotten crazy with your family and stuff, so thank you for making it to tonight's show. Tammy Petit, thank you. And make sure to thank the mods. All of the mods are awesome. They're all people I personally talk to and I love. So make sure to drop an M in the chat. Tammy Petit, thank you so much. I appreciate your support. And you can always write something there, but you know that. You've been around for a long time. Rumbly the Clown says, Happy 4th Eve. Make sure to leave milk and cookies out for Captain America. It's okay to slip out on my names, Marv. Last name is Rumble. I'm a Shriner clown in Minnesota. FYI, I feel welcome here in the Foogle fam. So it is Rumble. Oh, okay. Rumble E the clown. Okay. Oh, Rumble Lee? Okay. I'll still butcher it. And then Snow Leo, thank you. And then Lisa Abrams, thank you for subscribing. Daryl, thank you for subscribing. Ed, thank you for subscribing. And as always, if you subscribe during the show, I will shout you out. Thank you so much. All right, and then, so I gotta show you this one. So this is wild. And so let's see here. Dex, were you able to scan this at all? Did you see the crazy?
It won't.
Okay.
Oh, did I scan it or did I?
Yeah. Did you just look at it briefly?
Yeah, I looked at it briefly. I thought you meant put it in our format. It doesn't go in our format.
Okay, no problem. Yeah, because it's the Hill, right? Okay, so check this out. This is from the Hill. Humans pumped so much groundwater out of the earth that the planet has begun to wobble detectably on its axis, a new study has found. Okay, without knowing anything, and if you're just an average person, you're not a scientist, for us that have like talked about pole shift and different things going on, a few months ago they said that the Earth's inner core stopped, and I know that there's debates going on even in our community about that. I know Ben from Suspicious Observer said that mainstream was totally full of crap on that one, that it actually has before and it's not going backwards and it's more normal. Again, either way you look at this, I'm not an expert on it. But I thought that was weird. Mainstream told us that the inner core had stopped. And now they're telling us that they've pumped out so much groundwater out of the earth that the planet has begun to wobble. Is this really an excuse for something else that is happening? Again, all of the richest people in the world are saying within, another 7 years, they want to get to Mars. It just doesn't seem right. Do you guys get what I'm saying? It's very, very odd. It says human society, and again, they're blaming this on humans, is shifting the tilt of the earth. Humans pump so much groundwater that the earth has begun to wobble detectably. I don't know how this study was done. I'm just surprised that the Hill is putting something out like this. Dex, go ahead.
Sounds to me like the setup for let's stop pumping your own water, your own wells, or at least tax you for them, or do something to restrict it so that they can control it, as opposed to it being your free water that you get to drink because you spent the money to invest in a well on your property.
Yeah, you're hurting the world. Nobody likes Earth wobble, right? Wobble Like It's Hot is a very good song, but it's not good for the earth. Okay? You don't want the earth to wobble like it's hot. Wobble, wobble. Are they going to charge you to drill a well then? Tax you on it? It's one more thing to tax you on. Or they're setting us up for pole shift. Trinity Rare Blue Pill, hi ho, Kermit the Frog here. Hey, nice to see you. Truth Iris, I suspect at Beth. Wobble, wobble, shake it, says KT Cleans a Lot. Let's see here. Sounds like too many people running to one side of the island will cause it to tip over. Yes, it's like the video of the orcas. 4 orcas making a wave to knock the penguin off. That's kind of how it works, only it's with the earth. Corporations dumping isn't the big deal. It's your groundwater, right? Let's see here. Weeble Wobble. I found Waldo. Hey, it's nice to see you. Dingus, thank you. Randy Man. We have David Stuff. Thank you. Extinguish Shiffy says they don't even care anymore. Their lies are comical. Yes. Wiggle it just a little bit. I want to see you wiggle it just a little bit. Like a salt shaker. All right. Travis Ireland. Well, everyone is running into America. Dex, did you see that? It's wobbling because everybody's running to America. Oh, man.
Yeah, it's funny.
All right. And then before we move on, if you do want to protect yourself against an EMP, if you want your vehicle to run, to be able to get home to bug in or to be able to get out to bug out, this is one of the easiest ways to stop any kind of EMP strike or, of course, a CME, a coronal mass ejection. We've been having a lot of solar events recently. In fact, we may have Wages on here pretty soon. Wages just did a really great piece putting together kind of the crazy stuff that's going on right now. But as far as CMEs, a CME is something that will happen in the future. It is a guaranteed. It's not an if, it's more of a when. If you want to protect your cars, your trucks, your generators, your ham radios, your solar systems, even your energy solar generator, you can put an EMP shield on it. Now, the EMP shield for the car, this is an EMP shield micro, so it's even cooler. It's all the same protection in an even tinier box there. That is hooked up red to red on the battery, black to black on the battery, and green to ground. That's how easy that is. It takes less than 10 minutes to do. Anybody can do it. You don't have to be a mechanic. And then your vehicle will have a device that will ground the signal in less than 500 trillionths of a second when either any phase of an EMP hits or a CME. So a Carrington level event hits, you're still going to be able to drive and get home or get out. Well, again, many others will not. So go to marfooglenews.com/EMP and use the code MARF. You'll get $50 off. Plus, they again have all of the holiday stacking sales, so they do stack. Our discount, which is $50 off per device, is now going to stack on top of any holiday deals. So make sure to go check it out depending on the device that you're getting, because there's also a home version. This one, when wired into your home, can protect everything plugged in within 250 linear feet from where it is wired in. That means when the power does come back on, all of the stuff in your house will not be useless and burnt. It will be just fine. Or after all of the EMPs stop, you can hook up your devices that are all protected up to your generator and keep going like business as usual. marfooglenews.com/EMP. It's 100% American made. It's a veteran-owned business, and it's the same devices and company that they've been used by DHS, DOD, and now they are officially on the DEMSO team helping protect the Texas grid. All right, and then Twitter co-founder Jack Dorsey breaks silence amid Elon Musk setting viewing limits. Running Twitter is hard. So if you're not on Twitter, you didn't know this, but the other day, all of a sudden, they said that they were limiting how many views you could post. And at first it was crazy. It was like 6,000 posts per day for verified users, 600 for unverified accounts, and 300 for new unverified accounts. So essentially, somebody actually made a great comment. They said, hey, this isn't going to work well if a natural disaster hits and everybody goes to Twitter to see what's going on. They'll run out in like 2 minutes, right? I thought that was actually a great point. They say it's a temporary thing, and they say it's because all of these AI companies were basically able to unlimited go through all of Twitter and use it to scrape information and to scrape digital information and thoughts of people to be able to build their AI. Dex, I haven't talked to you about this one yet, and I wanted to get your opinion on this as a techie. And
yeah, I'm well versed on this one.
Yeah, let people know like what's going on here. And again, it because I have a verified thing, I don't think it will affect me because 10,000. I don't use Twitter enough to actually hit that limit. But for somebody who's new, they did edit it a little bit. Maybe it's 1,000 posts a day for verified. And
yeah, it's 10,000 for verified, 1,000 for unverified, and 500 for new users. This is not something new to social media platforms. So For example, LinkedIn has long for a long time tried to prevent the scraping of the information that's on their site and limiting the number of, or using different tactics like this. They may not have ever publicly stated them. I think what's new is you've got a transparency, well, I would say CEO, he's no longer that, but owner who's come out and said, hey, this is what we're doing, just so you guys know. A lot of times they just did this. They did it all the time. They do it all the time. Look, there's something that Twitter has. It's a product. It's called the fire hose. Well, I should rephrase that. There's something that Twitter had before Elon bought it called the fire hose. I was well aware of it. I saw it back in the tech industry. A lot of companies would purchase it, especially companies that were building products on top of Twitter's technology. So if they needed to have access to all of the tweets that were coming through for whatever reason, the product they were building needed it, they would buy and license this technology called the fire hose, which would give them the right to have that information. With that also came a lot of rules about how you used it. In other words, if someone deleted a tweet, you had to remove it from your database. You could not keep it, stuff like that. They wanted to make sure there was some level of security around it. People that are scraping Twitter are actually circumventing that product. Instead of paying for it, they're getting it for free. Now, with the advent of AI, it's really popular. So let me rewind. Back in 2016, 2017, 2018, a lot of companies were using the fire hose and using what's called NLP, natural language processing, against all of the data. They would build a huge database of all these tweets they would get from the fire hose, and they would use machine learning to look at that and try to learn from it. And it wasn't necessarily trying to do large language processing, which is what ChatGPT and others are doing, but it was doing NLP, which was more specifically trying to find things. So if it was like, tell me the sentiment of people talking about Coca-Cola, like, or Bud Light, tell me what people are saying about Bud Light. And the system would come back and say, most people are talking about this or saying that. And it was trying to help, in that case, marketers figure out what was being said. Now let's fast forward to today. Everyone is, and when I say everyone, the tech industry is, they're trying to recover. Like, they got hit hard. All of those tech companies took a beating in the last year or two. And the only ones that are shining right now are those that have the moniker of AI. And it's got to have some value to it. It can't just say, I'm AI and we're going to be worth a lot of money. They got to actually be doing something. So all of these tech companies, aside from Apple, are starting to boom up in the stock market and valuations because they've invested heavily in AI. So what they're doing is they're looking for large amounts of data that they can use to learn or program their AI systems from, so they can learn how to people speak and how to respond. Now, Twitter may not be exactly the best place to learn how people actually talk, because it, especially a long time ago, it was all 140 characters or less. Now it's a little bit longer. Now you got long tweets, so maybe that does help. But it was one of many of the data points that they're using. So sorry, I'm rambling. I hope I'm educating, but I'm going pretty deep here. But this is what Elon's trying to stop. Not that he doesn't want them to do it, but there's the right way to do it. The right way is you license it, you agree to whatever terms they have. And if they tell you things like, if a user deletes their tweet because they don't want it public anymore, then you have to abide by that in your data. And if you don't do it, then we shut you off from the fire hose. You never get it again. If people are not following that, and I don't know if that's what his current product does, but if they're not doing it the right way, and they're doing it the wrong way, which is scraping, he has every right in the world to sort of prevent that.
But can he also,
obviously, you don't want to do that at the extent. You don't want to do that at the extent of ruining the experience for users either. Yeah. What was your question? I'm sorry.
Can he also control, if he is building his own AI, can he control if he makes it so either they pay or they don't? Could he also just stop people from scraping it, because it is one of the biggest tools? If you look at it, yes, there's trolls, there's all this. But if they were using the entire thing, they have bots going over hundreds of thousands of pages of words. The average is going to find a human language in there. There's going to be the bad side, the good side, whatever else. But most people try their hardest, to write proper tweets and proper thoughts. It's basically taking all those thoughts and putting it into their system and training it. Couldn't he control that and then use it for his own AI use and then shut it down for everybody else? Or is he still selling it?
I mean, yeah, absolutely. Zuckerberg does the same with Facebook's data, and LinkedIn, Microsoft does the same with LinkedIn's data. They certainly gives them an advantage. Having a corpus of data like that gives you an advantage, but it also gives you a revenue stream if you need to license that data out for other people to use. Again, it's not necessarily the data that's going to win the AI game. It's the algorithm that's going to win the AI game. So, because the data is out there, you can find it in many different ways and places. Twitter is, yes, a decent source of data to be used, but there's plenty of others. I mean, you've got everything across the web. You've got books. You've got, there's a laundry list of things that can be pumped into AI to learn from. Twitter's just one of them. I think what he's trying to do is not allow his system to be used for free, as opposed to him being paid, which is the way it always was, even before he bought the company.
But people feel like it's screwing them over. It was trending that Twitter is dead, Twitter is rest in peace, that kind of thing.
Certainly, that's a byproduct of him being transparent. LinkedIn did never told anybody we do all these things to prevent people from scraping, because everybody would be like, why are you doing that to me? They just don't talk about it because they're not transparent. Microsoft's not a transparent company when it comes to that. And Facebook and Zuckerberg didn't do that either, even though they put limitations in. They do all sorts of things to stop bots and data collectors and things like that from doing it. I don't know if they did these exact same things. Now, that's my point. He has the right to protect his data. And I would suggest, as a good product, you would do that in a way that doesn't create a bad experience for your end users, because without your end users, you have no product. And obviously, he came back out and adjusted the numbers, and I'm assuming he's going to put other mechanisms in place that help protect his data from these thieves, if you want to call it that, these scrapers that are scraping his data for free and not paying for it. If he puts other systems in place, then it'll potentially fix this, and he won't necessarily have to ruin the end user's experience. And I don't honestly think it's ruining the end user's experience. I mean, those are some pretty high levels, at least for the verified.
But nobody is verified
users
compared to verified, and
well,
I think it should be where everybody is to the point where a regular human being and a non-bot could basically look all day without hitting that limit.
But here's the thing. They know, they have statistics in their system. Okay. He didn't just randomly grab these numbers. He asked the engineers, tell me what are the number of tweets that are viewed by the average user in a 24-hour period. And that number might have been across the entire board 150, 50, 25. I don't know. It's probably a really low number. Okay. So he makes the number significantly higher, but a lot less than what these scrapers would be doing. And in reality, I think everybody looks at it and goes, ooh, I'm now restricted. I feel bad because I have handcuffs on. But in reality, you were never going to use that many anyway. Who's going to read 1,000 tweets in a 24-hour period? That's a lot of tweets to read. Unless that's all you do is spend 24 hours a day on Twitter and just nonstop reading and you're a speed reader, I don't know that you're going to get through 1,000 tweets.
But does that include scrolling? What if you scroll past 1,000? You just keep scrolling and then boom, you've hit your limit.
Yeah, it depends on what their definition of read is. And that, again, it would be really stupid to make a system and put some sort of gate on it like this. Even though if you have the statistics, which they do because they have them, it's their system, and make it so that it would be detrimental to the users. Like the first thing you would do is how many times in a 24-hour period does somebody do this action? And these are the people we love. Make sure they can do it. Now, these bad guys, they're doing like 15, 20, 1,000, 10,000 X times more than that. Well, we want to make sure that they can't. So let's put the wall in somewhere in here where we can keep the majority of our customers happy and take care of these bad guys that are over there scraping all of our data.
Quite a few people says, I left Twitter a long time ago. Mike Hacker, retired police officer, says never used Twitter or Facebook. By the way, thank you. Thank you for your service too. James Garcia, God made all telecine technology global position. Super rocket science. This is not. Let's see here. If my people, which, by the way, Carol, I did see your comment. Aaron Girl says, if my people, which are called by my name, shall humble themselves and pray and seek my face, turn their wicked ways, then I will hear from heaven, which will forgive their sin and heal their land. Great quote there. Never use Twitter either, says Johnny Truth. Bearpaw 111. Well, I think that Twitter is it's not for everybody, but if you do get used to it, at first when I first saw it, like everything new, I didn't understand it. I was like, why would they limit it to 160 characters? But once I learned how to use it, it was pretty powerful because it is live across the world, or supposedly, and you were able to see people post videos and photos of live events happening. So if something happens at, the Sheffield Mall or something, you type that in, you can see people in the mall posting pictures of the Sheffield Mall of what is going on. Somebody's loose in the Foot Locker or something, right? That was what was powerful for me, and especially anybody who covers news. You could get to that instantly. But again, I think that Twitter is a very powerful tool, even if you don't use it. If you realize how much more powerful it is in other countries, like Saudi Arabia, it's like 8 out of 10 people use Twitter constantly, whereas 3 out of 10 Americans use it, according to a study about 2 years ago. So that would be really powerful for propaganda and for all sorts of other information. And if you want to control if you control the information, you can control the world. Go ahead, Dex.
Yeah, I was going to say governments and police states and policing love having data like that. They've always asked for it. Twitter and others have sometimes provided it and sometimes not, depending on who they were. But yeah, they love having that because it gives them, you can imagine, like they were just talking, like Macron came out and said just the other day, said social media players should be helping us stop this problem. But I guarantee you what they also are doing is using this data from the fire hose or from some other third party provider that has the fire hose to tell them who's saying what in what location, so they can know where to send a portion of that 45,000, police force to try to quelch out these, these riots and things that are happening. That happens all the time, guys. Don't think it doesn't. The data's out there and it's public, and whether it's scraped or it's paid for, it's still there. And they love it. They want to have it.
Yep.
And by the way, Adam, your question, I just want to address this real quick. Your question about, looking or scrolling through a bunch of tweets. It's interesting because they're saying the term read as an READ, how many tweets you can read a day. And that they're not using the term impression. An impression is what scrolls by. In other words, you had the opportunity to see it, pause on it, look at it. And read is usually treated as in some sort of a point in time on the screen where it could be counted by matter of seconds, where you could assume that somebody could have had the opportunity to read it as opposed to it just going by as an impression.
Right.
And we don't have those stats, sorry, but we don't have them, so we don't really know what it means. It's all behind their scenes.
Ryan Alter says, at least Musk has been transparent about the relationship Twitter had with the governments before. We don't know. We don't know what he's actually doing behind the scenes. He could be doing all sorts of funky stuff. He's making, he's trying to connect humans to the computer with Neuralink. He's digging holes under the ground mysteriously. And he is trying to get off planet for some reason. And he's making backup batteries for the grid. So, on top of Tesla and all of that. And then, so why a Harvard professor thinks he may have found fragments of an alien spacecraft. We talked about Avi Loeb before. After spending years studying the night skies for signs of extraterrestrial life, Harvard University astrophysicist Avi Loeb, the same gentleman who previously talked about Oumuamua, thought that it may be a spaceship. He put his Harvard University degree on the line at that point. He was one of the first ones from especially a prestigious school like that, an Ivy League school, to essentially put his signature on, hey, I think this may be a spaceship. And he has said that he believes that there's like a possible mothership out there, believes he has found proof of their existence at the bottom of the Pacific Ocean. It's kind of funny because I just mentioned, remember when they, in 2016, I think it was, whenever it was, when they rented out that whole town and the feds, CIA, DHS, everybody was there. Everybody had a vest on. There's pictures of the whole town just being filled with these people. NASA, every company you could think of was there when they did that. And I wonder if it was something like what he is talking about. Professor Loeb has just completed a $1.5 million expedition searching for signs of mysterious meteors dubbed IM1, which crashed off the coast of Papua New Guinea in 2014 and is believed to have come from interstellar space. If you remember, since this happened in 2014, we covered when they said that instead of Oumuamua being the first interstellar object, his theory was this thing that landed in Papua New Guinea was actually the first interstellar object. They do believe from the data that they have that it was interstellar, that it came from an outside the universe, or outside our galaxy. Is that right, Dex? It came from outside of our galaxy as interstellar?
Yes.
Yeah. And it said the 61-year-old told The Independent he oversaw a team of deep sea explorers who found 50 tiny spherules or molten droplets using a magnetic sled that was dropped from the expedition vessel, the Silver Star, 2 kilometers underneath the surface of the ocean. He believes the tiny objects, about 0.5 millimeter in size, are most likely made from a steel titanium alloy that is much stronger than the iron found in regular meteors. Further testing was now required, but Professor Loeb believes they either have interstellar origins or have been made by, get this, an advanced extraterrestrial civilization. This is the same guy who's been pushing this really hard for years, ever since he wasn't even done with college. Him and another gentleman have been pushing this. And they are the ones who actually discovered a lot of things. And now they went on this expedition. They found this stuff, and they're saying that it possibly was made. It's an advanced thing. There's a lot of stuff coming about aliens and extraterrestrials, and many people in our audience believe, and there's reason behind it. This has been rumored for like 20 years, that there's a possible false, fake kind of alien invasion coming. And that's not just some crazy thing. They're actually saying that it would be faked to basically get the entire world under one umbrella, to say that there's a threat from outside this planet. It's taken straight out of a Reagan speech, basically like, what if there was a greater enemy outside of our planet that, all of us team together as humans? The thing is, one thing they saw with CV is all of these governments, because they were afraid of the big bad wolf, they instantly all got on the same page. It didn't matter their politics, what was leading. Somehow we got even the craziest little countries to go with this whole CV thing. I mean, you have to think, even if there's some big scary thing, it's crazy that they got dictatorships alike. Everybody basically got on the same page about this. And the countries that didn't, I think the 6 countries that didn't go with the flow, I think pretty sure all of their leaders, all 6 leaders in about 4 months, either died of natural causes or they were replaced forcefully with 20 men entering their castles or homes and taking them out. So it's just kind of strange, right? And now we have all of this alien stuff coming out. And it's less looked at and laughed at. If you said this 20 years ago, people would have laughed him out of his job. He probably would have been canned. 20, 25, 30 years ago, a Harvard professor saying this, they would have sent him to a mental institution. Now they're actually doing expeditions and spending millions of dollars on him. It says he has long courted controversy for his trenchant belief that aliens have visited Earth. That's really, really crazy to think about, that they may have found some sort of crazy metal that's designed by aliens, right? That's at least what's being said. And then a lot of folks think that this is cover-up city. With all of and I don't want to go down a road where everybody's going to be fighting and arguing, but at the same time, this cocaine thing probably gets people to argue about the wrong thing. The main point here is people in hazmat suits were in the White House. Just say you didn't know anything else, and they don't tell you what they found, whatever happened, whatever it was. You had hazmat suits walking around the White House. What the heck just happened? Dex, do you want to go over this? Apparently, they found cocaine, but it was a different kind. They say it's from what?
Well, so apparently the White House area and all the streets around it were shut down. DC Fire Department was called in. Hazmat issue had gone down over the weekend on Sunday, July 2nd, yesterday. But nobody really knew. They just came out and said it's over. The streets are unblocked, and blah blah blah. So that was the initial report. We just knew there was something. Or there was something suspicious. Now, what they're coming out and telling us, and that's what this story is about, is that they actually found something that's called cocaine hydrochloride. Okay, so it's not just the stuff that they bring up from the South and everybody parties with. It is this other form of it that's called that is that word with hydrochloride. I'm not saying it because I just don't want to get a whole bunch references to it in the show, but the hydrochloride format is different. They're saying it's the one that's used in medical procedures, typically in the mouth and throat. It's a numbing agent. It's used for oral surgery type scenarios where they need to numb things. Dentists and other use it. A lot of times it's on a white Q-tip looking thing. Sometimes they can put it into a cavity or into other areas if they need to, but typically it's a cotton applicator or a spray. So anyway, that's what they're coming out and telling us is, hey, we found this stuff and
on a mirror.
Don't worry about it. Yeah. Yeah. They didn't say that, but now it kind of lines up with the fact that I think it was about a week or two ago, we were reporting, our current president missed a meeting because he had a root canal or something. I can't remember what tooth problem he had, but it was probably a root canal or a crown or probably both that they had to do. So this is a nice, easy way to think, don't worry about it. That's all it was. Now, who knows? Maybe somebody was having a party there and they found something else and they're just using this as a different way of covering it up. I don't know.
Well, we saw in the UK, what's his face, the old prime minister of that, CV, and everybody was locked down. They were having like private parties and making fun of it, and they weren't wearing their covers and all that. I just wonder what the current White House is like, right? But of course, people are going to make the jokes. But is that purposely there? Is that story? Is that line? They know that that's going to come out. And it's probably going to come out like that. Is this whole thing with Hunter and all of this is to purposely make everybody just absolutely unconfident in everything around us? Like everybody, of course, is saying like, oh, his son lost his stash or left it on a desk or something. Like, oh, what? Hazmat teams. They go, oh, it's just, you know what? So, and then they can partially say, oh yeah, well, it's cocaine, but it's a different kind. The fact that he got a root canal and they say it's a numbing agent, whatever else. What's the reason for that being? Did the pharmacy, do they have a pharmacy built in and the doctor came in and said, oh, here you go, we can numb your teeth? Who knows? I don't know what kind of red carpet treatment they get in the White House. Maybe the pharmacy literally comes to them. They go, here's your Vicodins, your Percocets, your cocaine, methadone, this and that. Maybe they just bring it to the president and he gets to just pick. I don't know. But somebody else said this is like a slap in the face. Something else was going on. But also what you don't think of, you think about the Hunter, you think about the stash, you think about this. What if it's something else? What if there was actually an event that happened and it's scarier than that? That would be the other thing. What if they completely lied and it wasn't this stuff at all? What if it was something else and it was an attempted takeout or something? You never know. Go ahead, Dex.
Well, let's give them at least the authorities that do this a little bit of credit. There has been numerous incidences of recent, especially with all this stuff going on with T-Man, where envelopes were mailed to people that had stuff in it, and they, whether or not it was good stuff or bad stuff, they always have to react to that, and a lot of that was going on in the DC area. The other interesting thing is a lot of the reports on this is saying it was a white powdery substance that was found. Which again would cause them to be on alert. Like, is this something, was this anthrax or something that's gone in the mail? We've seen that numerous times. So that makes a lot of sense for why you would be suspicious. But then the flip side is to call this hydrochloride after the fact. It's not typically, and I don't know. I'm just reading what I'm reading here. I'm not an expert. I don't use this stuff. I've never seen it. I'm not a dentist, right? Or I'm not an oral surgeon. But it doesn't seem like the description that's been given for this is a powdery version. It's like in applicators, in packages, in sprays, not in like powder. Maybe it is. Maybe some dentist can jump into chat and say, yeah, we get that powder all the time. Maybe they're partying all the time. I don't know.
Yeah, it doesn't make too much sense. And we keep these all archived on the website. So later down the road, there might be some other piece to the puzzle. Make sure to go over to marfooglenews.com and you'll find all of the sources. And then you can actually use the search bar and go backwards and find a lot of that. Before we move on, just a quick reminder, go over to marfooglenews.com/prep. All of the sales are across the board when you get close to holidays. It's $80 off on a 1-month supply at marfooglenews.com/prep for a 1-month supply of freeze-dried food that will last 25 years, over 2 decades. You can just basically put it somewhere and forget about it. Again, this is a great deal because, in fact, the $200 off that they had on the 3-month supply, this is actually a better deal. At $80 per month off, you could actually get 3 months for about $240 off. So go check out it while they have it. And also, if you can't get in on that, the price range of, say, the 3-month supply, this is a lower kind of get in there and get started rate. So go over there, check it out, marfooglenews.com/prep. It helps us out, it helps you out, and you have emergency food for any kind of disaster that's going to last for over 2 decades, sealed in Mylar bags and then double sealed in buckets. Again, they have other stuff. Go to the top tab when you go to this page, and you'll see there's actually a tab that you can go to and find all sorts of other great stuff, like the Alexa Pure Pro to purify your water, of course, anti-radiation tablets, and anything else that you might want to get, including first aid and survival books, because we won't have Google if everything goes down. That's, again, marfooglenews.com/prep. And thank you. It supports us. We're on our own, other than the support we get from our Foogle fan. We appreciate you. So thank you so much. Dex, let's go over the web only. We've got a lot of crazy stuff here.
We certainly do. Don't go anywhere, folks. There's more headlines coming at you. Definitely stuff for you to think about. Go to marfooglenews.com, click on the thumbnail for the show, or open up the show notes link down below in the description. It'll take you right here to this page where all the information we talked about, even stuff we added, like the tweet that Adam was showing you from the Hill, that's in here. It's on the page. If you refresh, you'll see all that information. You get to the yellow bar, it says overflow. That's the rest of the story. Let me tell you what's going on. So we do have a lot of the coverage going on with Russia and UKR. Most of this is the Ganda-ish stuff, but you got Zelensky calling Putin weak. You've got Medvedev coming in and trying to lay the groundwork for saying that this standoff with the West is going to last decades. That's more than 10 years. That's more than 10 years. That's more than 20 years, right? If not become permanent conflict. So again, it's just rhetoric, but it's interesting to hear that coming from that position. They did say they canceled their international air show. Russia did and the UK intel is telling us because they're afraid no one would show up. I'm not sure I believe the reasoning, but obviously it was canceled. Some more updates in here around Russia and UKR. It's all there, including some religious faiths that their leaders said they should get out of Russia. It's kind of interesting because it's kind of akin to stuff we saw back in the last great world conflict. Look, we got the political stuff going on. We got what's happened with T-Man, what they're talking about with senators and people that are running, and DeSantis and the stuff that's going on with him. If you're into some of the crazier Hollywood stuff like Spacey, he's back in the news. At least a new accusation has come out. If you're curious about what's going on there, interesting article. No sparklers for these folks. This is about people that don't want to celebrate the 4th of July because they are no longer patriotic. And then we talked about that survey last week too on our show about how many people don't feel like they're a patriotic American anymore. And of course, that is talking about those types of people specifically, and a lot more. There's another UFO crash that was pre-Roswell. At least this one person is claiming, Roberto Pinotti. If you're interested in learning more about that, I guess we'll see if more evidence or more information actually comes of that, as outside of his own just personal recollections of it. That's there, as well as some stuff about Bud Light and monkeys and farmers and vegan milk, if you're into vegan milk, and why that is bad for monkeys that farmers are using to get coconuts out of trees. So all of that and so much more, it's right there on our website. It is literally the rest of the story. There's almost an entire show's worth of information there. So go check it out. We put it together for you every night. MarfoogleNews.com, click on the thumbnail for the show, or open up the show notes link down below in the description. It'll take you right here.
Thank you, Dex, and thank you, our mods. Make sure to thank your mods down there. Thank you, Craig Alicious says, what is happening in France is not organic. It is all of their unwelcome guests. YouTube censored this message real bad. I wonder what part it took out. Raising to Higher Vibrations has subscribed. Thank you so much, and appreciate you. Michael Thompson says, so where's all the rainwater go? Smells like BS to me. Talking about the groundwater that's taken out, right? Jenna Miller, thank you for subscribing. And Lisa Abrams, thank you for subscribing. Snow Leo, Rumble the Clown, thank you. Tammy Petite, thank you, and thank you. And then Renee Alera, you are tonight's top supporter. Thank you so much. Tennessee Mountain Girl, over on D-Live, thank you everybody that has popped in. Vault, thank you for the diamond. Thank you, Kiki Gray. Thank you so much for your support. Scooby-Doo Do-Right, Kiki Gray. Thank you. Appreciate that. Priscilla R. Chance Paladin, thank you for gifting a badge to Priscilla. And thank you for 25 months, Cognitable, 25-month streak. And then I believe somebody else had a 14 streak there. So thank you so much. I appreciate you guys. Much love. And of course, be safe, be prepared, and Marf out. It's now time for the shoutro. It's not an outro. It's not a shout out. It's a shoutro. Asteroid weapon with your money. When it's your tax dollars, it's not funny. We are the guinea pigs, they are the monkeys. They get the pick on the politician running. Making asteroid weapon with your money. When it's your tax dollars, it's not funny. We are the guinea pigs, they are the monkeys. They get the pick on the politician running. Making asteroid weapon with your money. When it's your tax dollars, it's not funny. We are the guinea pigs, they are the monkeys. They get the pick on the politician running. I said white on. We on the front, I said Renee Alera. I said Renee, I'm a let about Renee Alera. Renee Alera, Renee Alera. Renee Alera, Renee Alera. Renee Alera. Solely world and the rumbly the ground and the rest of girls that I think you back when the stars shine. I read retro man and the doomsday white. I said oh now Scooby-Doo and do alright. A free on the Miller and the I maybe the third and the chance paladin. Orion Alter and the SSCS. Hey now with the Island Toby and the Pretty back now the golden and goldie. I said guinea pigs they are the monkeys. They get the pick on the politician running. Asteroid weapon with your money. When it's your tax dollars, it's not funny. We are the guinea pigs, they are the monkeys. They get the pick on the politician running. Making asteroid weapon with your money. When it's your tax dollars, it's not funny.
A 4th of July, there will be no usher. I lower up, back down, and I back now. I said I won't no back, never back down. Guinea pigs, they are the monkeys. They get the pig on the politician running. Making asteroid weapons with your money. When it's your tax dollars, it's not funny. We are the guinea pigs, they are the monkeys. They get the pig on the politician running. Making guinea pigs, they are the monkeys. They
All right. Let's make a let's make a let's make a Renee Alera. Renee Alera.